AI is about to leave the labs and start ripping apart our businesses in earnest. And we are decades behind on technology in D.C. because it does not matter to their business, their livelihoods, but it matters to us.
Let's talk about that. It's Tech Tuesday here on the Karen Hunter Show. And so that's glad that you're here today. We've talked about AI, the next trillionaire, the first trillionaire in business is going to come out of that. What does that look like? When you say AI is going to rip up our current landscape in business, what does that look like?
I spoke to 70 CEOs here in New York City a while back, and I asked how many are looking at replacing back office clerical workers and call center workers with AI and software. And out of 70 CEOs in attendance, all 70 hands went up. You know, that's what I mean by ripping apart businesses, where if you have 2.5 million Americans who work in call centers right now making $14 an hour, AI can do that job in 3 or 4 years, and you don't need artificial general intelligence. You just need a really good decision tree and a couple thousand voice prompts and software that can detect changes in our tones of voice. And then you can do a number not on 10 or 20 call center workers, but on 1 to 2 million. And that's a very obvious application. There are other inobvious ones that are right down the pike. And so the people who know the most about technology are the most concerned. And that is not people in Washington, D.C.
So one could argue we just had a non-politician who's running this country into the ground right now. Somebody that argued that, you know, I'm coming in with business experience and I'm gonna, you know, run this like a CEO. And we just played a clip where you kind of debunked that.
I'm not that kind of guy. No, I am that kind of guy in the sense that I'm obviously not a career politician. But the fact is the American people have been searching for some kind of change for years now. And it's not just the fact that Donald Trump won. It was also Bernie Sanders' outsized success in the last cycle, and even Barack Obama winning in 2008, where we've had this instinct that our government is decades behind the curve in terms of the real challenges of this time, and we've been casting about for some kind of actor to do something about it because we sense that the machinery in D.C. is not going to do anything about it, and they categorically will not. So to me, it's not that you need the most experienced politician you can find, because frankly, if you had the most experienced politician and put him or her in the White House, you wouldn't expect dramatic changes. But right now, unfortunately, we're at a point where the debt has been building up for decades, and now it's overdue. And the question is, how are we going to pay it?
Why not make that push from outside, from without? So the greatest change in our economy has happened from people like Jeff Bezos, from Mark Zuckerberg, from the folk at Google. The greatest changes in technology in our country didn't happen in Washington, probably could never happen in Washington, because the role of the president is not as broad as people. It's not king. He's not a king, or she's not a queen maker. These are people that have a very specific executive branch job to do.
For sure. We're in the midst of the greatest winner-take-all economy in the history of the world. And you talk about the first trillionaire. Amazon's a $1 trillion tech company right now. Jeff Bezos is worth $120 billion post-divorce. And his company, Amazon,
yeah, I saw that.
and his company paid zero in taxes last year. You got to look around and say, how the heck is a $1 trillion tech company paying zero in taxes, less than everyone listening to this right now? So when you ask me, like, hey, how are you going to make these big changes? We have to rewrite the rules of the economy so that they work for the normal American, the average person is struggling to pay their bills, which is most of us at this point. 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And the only way to do that is to get control of the government and rewrite the rules from the top down. Okay. If you were to be on the outside, let's say I start a tech company, and I've been an entrepreneur in the private sector for years, frankly, my incentives are going to be to get rid of workers, not try and do something positive for the people that are getting pushed aside.